Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're just waiting as everybody comes in from the waiting room. Just give it a couple more minutes or seconds. See how quick they can get in. All right. Well, thank you all for joining our virtual meeting today. This is the breakout session, a chance for all of us to be together and interact around a kind of specific idea of maximizing fundraising through stories. So welcome. Just a few housekeeping items. First of all, I'm Teal Thron. I am Director of Chapter Relationships with First T HQ. Hopefully I know most or all of you, but if I don't, nice to meet you virtually. Please remain muted throughout the session. So any questions that you have, please put those into the chat and we will get to those questions at the end of this session. If for any reason we don't get to your questions, we will make sure to circle back with you about any questions that you have. But please do add lots of questions. We want to make this as interactive as possible, but remain muted at this time. So attendees of this session will leave with an increased understanding of how to leverage storytelling to maximize fundraising success. So today we'll talk about storytelling. We will have a question and answer session with our chapter leaders, and we'll leave you with some really valuable headquarter resources. Today we'll hear from Sarah Haneke, the Senior Director of PR and Storytelling for First T, about the art of telling a great story, as well as executive directors from chapters who are leveraging storytelling to make a greater impact in their communities. So Sarah, we'll kick it off with you.
Great. Thank you, Teal, and hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. So we've got 30 minutes. I could spend hours talking about storytelling, but I'll try and give you just the very quick highlights before we jump into how to leverage storytelling for fundraising. First, my section is just going to be a little bit about what really makes a great story and how to identify those. So a few kind of best practices that we use at headquarters. First is the name and face, what we call name and face. So really honing in on a specific person and telling their story, telling their name, showing their picture. And then the story is, what is the impact that the program had on them? And then really looking for opportunities when you can to tie it into what's happening in the world or the community around you that makes it relevant or timely. Not always critical or needed for those last two, but it does help to make those connections when you can. It's always nice to have those stats to be able to say things like, oh, 80% of our participants have higher confidence. But it means so much more when you can tie it to a specific person and share how that young person actually built their confidence and how they use that confidence to maybe go out for the golf team or do something that they didn't think they could, and then how they achieved that success. So telling those specific stories really help you make those personal connections. So moving on to the next slide, is just a quick example of a story that we have featured on our social media channels. But these types of stories are exactly what resonate with donors. And so Milena was a participant, now she's an alum. And when she was younger, she had a skin condition that really prohibited her from being out in the sun. And so she was told she may not be able to continue to pursue golf. And so she stuck with it. First T was by her side as she did that, and she received treatment and now in remission, and now is a D1 college golf athlete. So, this was an example of, we just told a little bit of her story, and then we linked more to the blog to where you could read more about how First T was part of her journey and things like that. These types of stories do extremely well for us at headquarters on social media. They're our top performing types of content. again, this is what resonates really well too with donors and supporters. And just quickly too, wanted to call out, we saw that great video of Chandler earlier when we kicked off our session. So you can really see here too that storytelling can look a lot of different ways. It could be a really high-end produced video, or it could be a few sentences and an image. So storytelling doesn't always have to be this big, elaborate idea. And then moving on quickly to how do we identify and find our stories? So there's a lot of different ways, the process may look and feel a little bit different at each chapter, but really going to your sources. Coaches are probably your first line with the participants and probably a great resource because they're seeing firsthand day in and day out what's happening with the participants and as they're achieving successes, or maybe if they're struggling and watching them currently in their journey. So coaches are a great way. Participants and parents going straight to the source. One thing I recommend is reaching out and leveraging people from different areas of your business. So if you have a monthly staff meeting, asking everyone to come to the staff meeting with a story, or at least those who are on the front lines to each come to the staff meeting to tell a story. And then if you're sending newsletters to parents, is there a call to action to submit stories? And then I would say the biggest tip or takeaway from this section too is when you come across great stories, how do you keep track of them? So just because you hear a great story, if we go back to that relevant and timely piece to it, it doesn't always mean that you need to share it that week. So thinking through, you might have a big donor piece coming out in 3 months down the road or 5 months down the road. How do you keep track of them? So I really encourage having a document to house all of your stories as they come in, a place to keep track of them. We use an Excel document so that we can keep tabs based off of types of stories. And I'll give you an example. We recently came across a participant who hosted an event for veterans. She came up with this idea after attending the Innovators Forum. She wanted to host a networking event for them. Happened a few weeks ago, but we've got Veterans Day coming up in November. So we thought that'd be a really great story to tell about how she came up with this concept and then executed and then really honored those vets. And so we have that in our document. So easily to go back, find all the details, links to photos, all of those things so that it's easily accessible to go back and search and find those stories when we need to find them. So talked really fast. I was trying to get some good nuggets in with the short time we had. So thank you. And I will pass it back over to Teal.
Really good nuggets, Sarah. Excellent information and helpful to have that HQ perspective. I think that utilizing those coaches and participants and parents they're just really important. I was at a chapter yesterday and a parent came up and started talking about how amazing the class was that her child was in. And I said, can you write that down in an email and send that to the chapter? That would be great. Storytelling is really important. So thank you for that. So great. Now we're going to head over to virtually head over to talk to two of our executive directors in the network, chapter network leaders in storytelling. Deshaun Johnson, who's the executive director for First Tee Louisville, and David Cohn, the executive director for First Tee Southeast Wisconsin. So hello, gentlemen. Thanks for being here.
Hello. Thanks for inviting us. I'm glad to be here.
You are welcome. So just a quick question. We'll start with Deshaun, and then we'll chat with David about the same question. But just please share your success of leveraging storytelling at your chapter.
Well, we've had great success here at First Tee Louisville with sharing those stories because, for one, those stories tell our why we're doing what we're doing, and it gives us a great opportunity to share that with our donors, potential donors, parents, and it gives you a connecting point. And what we look at two types of stories. We look at the awareness story, or the call to action story, versus doing things that move people and make them want to do something, or the awareness of what we're doing with our program. And sometimes they can move into each other. So our storytelling is a great part of what we do, because people want to understand your why. And through your stories, you tell your why.
Absolutely. Thank you, Deshaun. David?
Yeah. And for us, it's very similar. We're really thinking about impact, and the impact that we're making on the kids. We all see it, right? We're at programs, we work with our coaches, we work with the kids directly. But so often our stakeholders, whether that be donors, potential parents, community members, they're not seeing that impact unless we bring it forward to them. And so, for us, it's about capturing that information, those stories, that information, and putting it together in digestible formats and putting it in places where those audiences can consume it. So I think, what Sarah was talking about, making sure we're categorizing it or cataloging it, is something we're not necessarily great at. And we have an opportunity to improve. But I think that the more and more we're committing ourselves to story gathering and storytelling, the more we'll be able to do as we move forward.
Awesome. Thank you, David. So let's talk about tools. What are we using at these wonderful chapters as far as tools? Deshaun, what are you guys using in Louisville?
Our tools are, we're using Instagram, Twitter, our Facebook, social media pages to connect, because right now everyone is moving towards those pages. And as you see, this is something that we did as a call to action. We were doing a raffle, and this is stepping outside of the box, our comfort zone, as far as doing something different, which my daughter brought to me. She said, hey, how about we do a video and we do the cards like they're doing on TikTok? And I was like, okay, let's do that. And it was amazing how people picked up on it and the views that it got. And it created not only that call to action, it created that awareness, because people that was not aware of our program became aware. And then people who wanted to buy a ticket bought a ticket. So it was an amazing point that we put together. And you got to use these tools to the fullest. Sometimes we get into a box to where it's the same. We must use different measures, and don't be afraid to go with what's trending and do something, because you've got 10 seconds to catch that person's eye. And sometimes if you have a powerful message and you want to get out, it's how that message is displayed is really going to create that interest, or create that person being with you, or continue to follow, or continue to move forward with your program.
Awesome. So Deshaun, quick question. Are you now scrolling TikTok for 15 minutes a day looking for trends?
Absolutely. But it's work related.
Right.
That's what I tell my daughter, is work. Daddy's doing work.
Daddy's doing work. That's right. Very good. All right, David, what about your tools at your chapter at Southeast Wisconsin? What are you guys using?
Yeah, so for the first one I wanted to share is our newsletter. So this is a physical print document that we send to donors twice a year. So we do a spring one and we do a fall newsletter. And we mail that to our donors from the last couple of years. We include a donation donation form and a return envelope. But it's really a chance for us to highlight the impact that they're making through their gifts. So, we follow a process, ask, thank, report, repeat. This is the reporting part, and it's a chance for them to see the difference that they're making through our programs. So we try to highlight the different stories, and we really take a donor-centered focus on it. So a lot of the language in it, and we certainly share some, we have a shared example in our Canva account. A lot of the language starts out with, because of you or your support made this happen. And tying it into that this all isn't possible without their support. So that's one piece. The next one is a platform that we use called Bonjoro. Bonjoro is a video stewardship platform. and we use it to send thank yous to donors. So whenever we get a donation online, we'll record a thank you video and send that out. That tends to stand out in their inbox. We can also take that to program locations, be at a program location, say, hey, I wanted to show you what's happening out here today, and use that in videos that get sent out via email. The other use case is the one that's on the bottom right here. We had about 350 tickets to our local minor league hockey team's playoff run donated that we turned around and gave to our participants and families. We had those families use the testimonial feature. We sent out a link. They recorded a thank you. We sent that to the donor who gave us the tickets and said, hey, this is the impact you made. These are the kids that got to go to the games to see the action.
That's so cool.
Yeah, very well received, and a lot of different use cases with the platform. We do use a paid plan. It's about $25 a month for the different level, but there is a free version available as well. And then the last one we shared on Chatter recently, we had our participants just take basically blank sheets of paper, and we asked them to write about their first tee story. And then we took those blank sheets of paper with their writing on it, scanned them in, and now have that as content that we can use in a variety of different ways. We had these printed on on some signage that we've used at a few events. We had them printed through our nice partnership with FedEx, and they're kind of evergreen, right? They're not dated. If somebody's seeing them for the first time, it doesn't matter where they're seeing it. But we posted them on social media. We can use them in thank you cards and things like that. And so that's been a great opportunity to take some of the participant stories. You see it in their handwriting and you see it in their words, and share that with our audiences.
That's great. And those are really fun and unique ways to storytell and get the message out. Does Bonjuro tell you how many clicks you get on those videos?
Yeah, so you actually get you can see an email, you can see if they've opened it, and then they actually have an opportunity to respond to it. We get a lot of people. I would say it's hard to guess, but 25-30% of people will respond in some way to that, whether that just be a thanks, it's great, thanks for the response, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Way to plug that FedEx, buddy, creating that top of mind awareness.
It helps that the FedEx store is right down the road from our office. And they're great over there. But yeah,
that's useful. So just another quick question for both of you. I will start with Deshaun again. How do you currently capture stories at your chapter, or how do you aspire to?
What we try to do is make everyone a reporter in our agency, our staff, as everyone's a reporter. Because if you have a phone and then you have a connecting point, if you see something, record it, photograph it. We just don't have certain people say you're in charge of doing this. And what we do is create that file on our drive to say, okay, upload it to the file and see how creative we can become with this. Because you never want to miss a great moment. And whenever you're working with youth participants, there's always great moments that you want to share.
Absolutely. Always great moments. Thank you, Deshaun. David, how are you guys?
Yeah,
too.
Yeah, I mean, similar to Deshaun, it's like, trying to have the conversations with our coaches, hearing from them. I try to spend time when I can at programs. We do an end of the summer, our session parent survey, and one of the questions on there is, would you be willing to provide a testimonial? We haven't specifically used that, but one of our thoughts is that we can go to those parents who have said, we're 10 out of 10, and they're willing to provide a testimonial and get some stories directly from them. And one thing I'd share is that we had a news station come out and do a story at one of our locations this year, and the reporter recorded the entire thing on her iPhone to be broadcast on TV. And so if that reporter can shoot a full segment on her iPhone, we can be using iPhones to be, sharing our stories as well. And so if you put a phone in a kid's face and ask a great question, that recording that you have can be used for the video itself, but it can also be used for quotes and understanding a little bit more to know if there's something more there. I don't know if I'm supposed to tease this, but there's a video playing at the end of the session where you hear some stories, and we were talking in our prep about the content or the capture process. And, they ask these participants a question. If you were to say thank you to your coach, what would you say? And it's a very open-ended question. And then the response can be used in a variety of different ways. It happens to work for what, you'll see, but how do you craft those prompts that then lead to the storytelling from your participants or your coaches or, whoever you want to capture it from?
Yeah, and that's a great question to ask, right? Because it's about people and coaches and those relationships that are being built. So fantastic. Well, thank you, David. We are.
I'm going to jump in here. We've got a
Yep.
few questions coming through in the chat. I hope that's okay.
Yeah,
I want to make sure yes, awesome. Real quick follow-up question, David. I think this is back from the newsletter, and I do want to mention Christian has been dropping a lot of great links in the chat. So if you haven't had a chance to take a look at those, these will all be saved. Everything is going to be recorded and shared on the internet afterward, both the session and all of the links. So you'll be able to access them later. So I know she shared your newsletter, David, so everyone has access to that. Real quickly, can you tell us, do you send that newsletter to all donors or certain levels? Do you customize it at all? Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it is a list of all donors from like the last, I'd have to look back to see if it's the last 2 or 3 years. But it's costing us about $1 a piece to send it out. We're sending it out to close to 2,000 individuals. It brings back more than that. It's not a huge number, but it's also a number that allows us to go back to those people and ask, because they're hearing the stories of, they might not necessarily give in the envelope, in the return envelope, but they're hearing about what we do so that they know the next time we ask as well. And that newsletter is in our Canva shared folder, along with a few other things. Please use it. There's no proprietary design work here. We did it all in-house in Canva. So please feel free to use it for anything.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, David. The next question is coming from Gina at First Tee Oakland. Who in the chapter is typically responsible for this type of work? And maybe Deshawn, I'll ask you to respond first, and then we can jump back to David. Creating a strong social media presence, keeping it current, responding, following all your TikTok videos, that takes a lot of time. So who at your chapter is taking the lead on that?
At our chapter, it's our programming department, our program director and his team, because they are boots on the ground and they are connecting with the participants, the parents. So they kind of take lead on that because they're doing it day in and day out. So they do a great job of understanding the message and what the message that we're trying to send out, and making sure the guidelines that we have in place are done also.
Yeah, for us, we don't necessarily have a point person. It's a team effort. I think about this being, a true representation of a culture of philanthropy within our organization, that everybody from top to bottom, has a responsibility to connecting with our donors that support our work. And so it's from, the programming up, because we wouldn't be able to capture the stories without, the programming piece and them seeing it firsthand. And like I said, we have to do a better job internally of documenting and cataloging, but it's a full team effort.
Great. Thanks, David. And I think we might have just one more minute for a last question before we wrap up here. Margot Coleman asks, what are you using for your drive to save stories? I'm not sure if this is directed to anyone. I know, David, you mentioned that it's a work in progress. I know Sarah shared earlier for us at HQ, it's a working Excel document that gets added to by all of our team members. Any other resources that either of you would like to share about how you might save your stories to come back to?
Well, basically, it's in a drive. You can always pay for the extra space on a drive, or there's other outlets you can get into that don't cost a whole lot of yearly fee that allow you to save those videos, and maybe a YouTube somewhere you can put them in that you can always go back and get them. But we usually save them to the drive, but there are a lot of outlets you can use for that.
Awesome. Thanks, Deshawn. And I also want to say thank you to Jamie Handy, who's on the call today, another one of our colleagues at First Tee headquarters, part of Sarah's storytelling team. She does a great job doing all of the tracking for the storytelling for us at HQ. And she even left her email in the chat. So feel free to reach out to her or any one of us on the call if we can help in any way. So Teal, kick it back to you.
Thanks very much. So I hate to end this incredible discussion, but we must. And just wanted to say thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Sarah and David and Deshawn. And thank you to everyone who attended this session, this breakout session. If we did not get to your burning question, we will circle back with more information, and there will be an email sent with more information about this session. So thanks again for joining us today. Thank you for continuing to build game changers in your community. And there are a few others who would like to say thank you today, as David alluded to.
Thank you, First Tee, for teaching me golf and life skills. Thank you to my coaches for believing in me, for trusting me all these years. And without First Tee, I wouldn't be who I am. And First Tee really is a second family to me.
I'm thankful for all the advice my coaches have given me on careers and education, and also on the game of golf and networking.
Thank you very much for helping me learn how to thrive under pressure, both on and off the golf course, when school gets hard and when everything gets so hectic. Thank you so much for providing me with a healthy outlet.
Thank you for helping me fall in love with the game of golf.
I'm thankful for my coaches giving me the ability to learn all about myself on and off the golf course.
Thank you for inspiring me and showing me opportunities that I would never have found anywhere else.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you for all the opportunities. Thank you for creating a cool, safe environment. Thank you just for everything that y'all do, especially helping us through high school. And I really, really appreciate you and love you both.
Thank you for giving me all the tools I need to succeed.
Thank you again, everybody, for joining. Have a great rest of your day.